everybody. Welcome. Alright, I'm going to put a link to the paper right here in the chat. I'm also going to do channel reviews, so sign up for channel reviews. So you put that in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my paper, Clickbait Works. And welcome to the Linus Wilson channel. Subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and let me know what your issues are with your YouTube channel that you want to get more views. Alright, so I've put up a couple videos. This is the third live stream associated with this particular video. I was planning on going live at 7. I got a little delayed, and now it's closer to 8 Central Time in the US, Chicago time. So my paper is, I really think of it as the first study to look at the YouTube algorithm rigorously. That there's like stuff by Google engineers out there, and they're giving you a broad overview, but they're not really telling you what works and what doesn't. Mine looks at my other channel, which is Slowboat Sailing. This channel I consider an experimental channel. I use it to, translate some of my research, my more recent research, into to a broader market in the same way that I'm doing with the Finance Professor podcast. And this paper was on the Finance Professor podcast. You can hear part of this paper in the earlier live stream, and I might put that up again in maybe a subsequent live stream or at the end of this live stream. But right now, while I'm awake, and it's the evening here in Central Time US, I'm here for kind of answer your questions and channel reviews. The big findings of Clickbait Works, the secrets to getting views on the YouTube algorithm, is that the most important factor in getting views is the click-through rate. So in 2018, YouTube started. Let's see if there's any sound here, because I might not have my audio on. So let's see if we can get this. I'm going to check my sound manager. Okay, maybe. I think it's on. Maybe it's on. Well, anyways, I'll make sure it should be on now. The point with my paper is that we find, what are the big factors. There's this paper, Covington et al., which is by a couple Google engineers. If you listen to the YouTube advice channels, they're obsessed with this paper. And it says that YouTube maximizes expected watch time per impression, which is the click-through rate times the minutes watched per view. And as a YouTube creator, you get those stats now. Starting in 2018, you get click-through rate, and before that, for a long time, you got watch time per view. And what I find is that the Covington paper it cannot be supported by the data. And there is a video out. I was planning on doing a snippet from that video when I do kind of the hero video for this series, to put that Covington clip in it. I'm not going to do it today, but Paul Covington, the lead author on that study, the first author on that study at least, a Google engineer in neural networks, he says that it's not really up to him whether they're maximizing expected watch time per impression. He says that it's up to product. I quote from the VP for product from YouTube. And what Covington says in response to a question on a video here on YouTube, which is very hard to find because its name is incorrect, but I was able to find it, and maybe I'll bring it to you, that snippet. He says that it's not up to them as the neural network engineers whether or not they're going to they're going to maximize expected watch time per impression. The weight they put to click-through rate versus watch time is varying over time. And that is going to be a executive decision. And the point of my paper is that they put a very small weight on watch time and a very big weight on click-through rates because they're focusing on casual users, right? So don't believe YouTube when they tell you that they want you to maximize watch time. They don't. They want you to do closer to maximizing views, that is clickbaiting as much as possible, because they are focused on casual users. They're locked in a battle with Facebook, Amazon, and the other giants, and they want you to stay on the platform, and they want to get more and more people addicted to the platform, like you and me are, because you're watching it, or you're a YouTube creator. And so they're not gonna reward super gigantic videos as much as they're gonna reward videos that people click on a lot. So I think there's a really interesting video by Daryl Eves, which is, his message is totally wrong, but he reveals what YouTube really cares about, right? So he shows one of his most successful videos on some of the channels that he manages. And it's one that has 1.5 minutes of watch time per view. Not very much, right? I've got lots of videos like that. And my average video is much higher than that. But what he does do over millions of impressions and millions of views, this video has a 24% click-through rate. And that video got millions of views, right? And it's recommended, 98% of its views come from recommendations from YouTube versus, my more successful channel, the last 28 days, it had about 60% views from recommendations. The rest was driven through search or through, that is, I have good SEO optimization, or it was driven through my own being able to drive views through my newsletter and Facebook, right? But you really want YouTube to drive the views. You want to trigger the algorithm where 70% of the views come from on YouTube, according to Google product. And so for that, you want to maximize how much the algorithm is recommending your videos. So what do you focus on? You need to focus on the click-through rates, right? You need to focus on making thumbnails and titles that people are going to click on. And everything else after that, that is the quality of the video, how will you cut the video, is probably not going to matter. I mean, your production standards, which is obviously something that I focused a lot on my other channel, and I continue to focus. I obviously live streams, I don't think the production standards are great, but I definitely focused a lot on making visually interesting videos on my other channel. And so maybe you have a kind of a long-term effect that people respect your channel, and that makes them more likely to click through because you made good videos. But it's not really a factor in the YouTube algorithm. And really, if you think about what makes people click through, one of the things that we talk about in the paper, or I talk about in the paper, is, what causes a great click-through rate. One of the things is having newsworthy or trending topics, right? Is going to tend to do that. One of the things we found that is kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense to me, is that actually videos people don't like do very well. Those are my most viewed videos. Some of it's due to the fact that I'm getting a wider audience that is less receptive to what I'm doing. And some of it is due to the fact that they're controversial topics that get people to click, but they don't necessarily agree, or it may be something that they're not going to be always positive for it. And so, I think that's kind of one of the things. The other thing, the misconception is there's this misconception out here, and I've addressed that in an earlier video on this channel, and you might get to hear it if you stay on the live stream for a while, is that what's more important if you're thinking about percent audience retention versus total watch time. Percent audience retention is the most important thing that you should worry about, or percent audience retention is the least important thing you should worry about. That's actually a negative indicator in many cases that of views. So my greatest percent audience retention views on my channel that's got over 1.3 million views, right? Not this channel, but my other channel. Those ones with low audience retention, percent audience retention, actually tend to do better than those that have high percent audience retention. And that's typically going to be because those videos are going to be shorter. So the shorter videos get a higher percent audience retention, but they get a lower total watch time. And so I do find in the log linear model, which really tests what the Covington et al., the neural networks paper that everybody cites about the Google engineers, that log linear model that tests that does see there's a significant positive result for watch time, but there's definitely either insignificant or negative insignificant result for percent watch time, so percent retention. So percent retention's no good. You don't want to deal with percent. You don't want to worry about percent retention. I mean, you can worry about it in the sense that, you'd like to rack up more watch time and you'd like to get more money from your monetization if you're monetized, given that you have somebody. But you don't want to shorten your videos to increase percent watch time. You want to make long, to the extent that it's easier to make a longer video that's going to get more minutes watched versus a shorter video that's going to get a higher percent retention. You want that long video that's going to generate the more minutes watched, because that shows some significant results, but not in all specifications, and that's a really weak effect compared to click-through rate. So if you're deciding between higher percent retention, longer minutes watched, or if you're deciding between, hey, do I make a better title and thumbnail which gets people to click, you should spend all your efforts on getting that better title and thumbnail that gets people to click. So that's what I would say about that. So I don't see anybody that wants to do a channel review yet. What are some of the other things? I would say with the paper, it's a free download at SSRN. SSRN has made it harder to download papers since I started using the platform. I'm going to think about putting it up on another platform later on so you don't have to do so many clicks. I would say just persist and either put in your login details because, it's not going to make a difference, or, do all the steps. And I've got this to tell you how to do the steps. You hit the orange button and then you maybe have to prove that you're a human and all this other stuff. And do that, and I don't get any information. I don't get any of your information, and I've not really found Elsevier, who's bought out SSRN since I started putting up my working papers. I have about 40 working papers up there. I've written almost 50 working papers since I got my PhD. Um, so, I don't know. I don't get any information. Okay, so it seems like the audio is doing really well right now. The So, I would say just get it. It's going to be free in the end, and you can download it, and it's worthwhile because it's going to change how you make videos and what you do to grow your channel, right? And so, my gripe with the big channels, the Daryl Eves of the worlds, the video creators of the world, and others is that they're not very rigorous. I thought Daryl was more rigorous than he was, but I don't think he is. I don't think he understands basic statistics. I don't think most of these guys understand basic statistics, including the ones that everybody cites, except for maybe the Google engineers, that these guys have not done any rigorous analysis of this. For instance, video creators promotes this concept that you need 50% audience retention at the end of your video. It's total bunk. There's no evidence that that is what is driving views. So, just because these guys have been on YouTube since 2006, that doesn't mean that they know how to do basic statistics. It doesn't mean that they are not telling you total bunk. And what's going to grow you 100 million YouTube subscriber channel is consistency. Thousands of videos, 2 videos, 3 videos a week. And you cannot do rigorous analysis or original analysis 2 to 3 times a week. So that's my take, is that you can rely on these talking heads that have not done any analysis, that are just pushing out whatever is going to get them views, right? In a sense, the video creators, Daryl Eves of the world, are kind of clickbaiting you because they have to put them out to grow the channels. They're not doing the analysis because the analysis that I did took months and months and months, right? And if my job was not to be a researcher, that's my full-time job, is to be a researcher, I wouldn't have been able to do that, right? That wouldn't have got me AdSense revenue. That wouldn't have got me subscribers. That wouldn't have got me views, right? I would have been better focusing on putting out 2 to 3 videos a week with headlines that would get you to click and thumbnails that would get you to click, versus writing a rigorous statistical analysis with data that takes a ton of time to collect, right? So you can go to the pseudoscience out there, right, and rely on what they tell you. And some of what they tell you is worthwhile, Don't do sub for sub, it's better to have more audience retention than less if you have unlimited time, but it's better to spend more time on your thumbnail and title than it is to worry about 50% audience retention or some arbitrary statistic that has nothing to do with getting more views or triggering the algorithm. And watch time has something to do with it, but not a lot to do with it. It's almost entirely about clickbait. It's entirely about this CTR ratio. And so, that's why the Logan Pauls of the world and the Casey Neistats of the world have millions and millions and tens of millions of subscribers and billions of views, is that they get those titles and thumbnails to get you to click. When you click onto it, is it magical cinematography? No, it's not. I guarantee you. I have a lot of respect for Casey Neistat. I've watched a lot of his videos, but I don't think he's making great videos. He's grasping onto trends. He's getting titles and thumbnails that are getting you to watch. That's what he's doing, and that's what made him successful. It wasn't daily videos. It wasn't great video quality, right? It's mostly him sitting in his kind of, I would say, cluttered room, right? Less cluttered than this room, but pretty cluttered. Talking about current events that get people to click with sensational titles, and he's better at saying sensational titles than thumbnails. But if you look in my genre, who's going through the greatest growth, who are the top subscribed channels, who are getting the most views, it's those with the sensational thumbnails, and to a lesser extent the titles that have grown and are getting the views and are making kind of a full-time income on their YouTube. So that, but my paper does that to puts a rigorous stamp on it, and because I don't have to make money off of my YouTube, it's just a hobby. Especially this channel is just for fun, just to translate my research to other people, to a wider audience. That's why I do it. Right? So I'll tell you the truth. Whether or not that makes me money or not. This channel is not monetized. I'm not making any money from it. I never expect this channel to be monetized. If I wanted to make money from it, I guess I could put it on my other channel, which is monetized, but I'm not. So put down your comments in the comments section. I'm gonna say goodbye, and maybe I'll do another live stream on Game of Thrones. All right, talk to you later. Bye.